Thank you for coming. I appreciate it greatly, Izuku said to his guest. Sitting in his office, on the couch opposite him was none other than Okane Yaoyorozu, mother to Momo and a very, very wealthy investor. She was very recognizable as Momo's mother, looking pretty much like an older version of her, in a very expensive suit. Well, a friend of my daughter saying he has an interesting business proposal was bound to catch my attention. I am grateful regardless, Izuku said, before looking over to his side, at their newest maid. Sue, please give Mrs. Yaoyorozu the gift we have prepared. Sue was another teenage girl, a bit older than Izuku himself. She had very pale, long blonde hair, and pale porcelain-like skin. Her eyes were glassy and unfocused, and her doll-like joints made her look like a giant living doll. Especially in her maid outfit that Shiruka made for her. Yes sir, she said in a monotone voice. It was then that a suitcase lowered from the ceiling, and onto the table in front of Okane. Please take a look. Izuku urged her. Okane nodded, and opened up the suitcase, and inside, was a single piece of cloth and a small metal rod. Oh, and this is? Something for your daughter. Please try to push the rod through the cloth. Izuku instructed. Curious, Okane did as he said, and pushed the metal rod through the cloth. The rod went through cloth, opening a hole, and once it exited, the hole immediately patched itself up. As if it was never there. I see. If this was used to make Momo a costume, my daughter wouldn't have to strut around half-naked. Okane said, with a small smile on her face. Well, you certainly know how to get my attention. So then, what are you offering? Something huge. Izuku snapped his fingers, and a vial of cure-all dropped down onto the table. How are you doing that by the way? Okane asked, looking up to see where these things were coming from. Only to see a bunch of things floating in the air. Sue can shoot out threads from her fingertips, and manipulate them with ease, Izuku explained. Anyway, the vial in front of you is a new cure-all drug. It cures almost everything, including cancer. Okane's eyes went wide, and she leaned forward. Midoriya, are you being serious here? Izuku snapped his fingers again, and Sue handed him a pile of papers. Here is the results from a test run we've done with this drug, on hundreds of different people, with various different ailments. Okane took the papers and started reading them with an intense focus. Izuku could see her eyes go over each letter. Minutes passed, and then Okane put down the papers. I need to confirm these reports. Of course, take your time. Izuku encouraged her. The new half hour was spent with Okane on the phone, using her various sources to get as much confirmation as possible. Well, appears everything you've shown me is legitimate, Okane said as she set down her phone. Mr. Midoriya, are you completely aware of the implications this drug's mere existence will have on the world at large? Very much so. I've spent days going over scenarios and planning. Izuku explained. When I said this was going to be huge, I meant it. This is going global. What are you going to do to deal with the pushback? Okane asked. A lot of other counties aren't going to let this happen easily, not when it changes the power dynamics so much. I know. And I'm already working on that. Izuku said with a grimace. But its workings are a secret. I understand, as long as you have a plan, Okane said. Speaking of which, how are you going to go about this? What do you need from me? And what exactly am I getting out of this? To answer your second and third question, money, Izuku said. I'll also need your worldwide connections. I need to buy land in pretty much every country in the world, buy supplies, hire workers, and everything else needed to start mass-producing the drug. I'll also need to start an entirely separate business division to make sure everything runs, including several smaller divisions inside that one. As you can tell, this is going to require a ridiculous amount of money and influence. So I'll need the support of several worldwide powers to make this work as smoothly as possible. Not just for the sake of maximum profit, but also for the sake of making sure this medicine gets to as many people who need it as possible. In that case, you'll have my family's support, Okane said. How much support depends on how you handle this. Very well, I have a lot more to talk to you about, Izuku told her. Believe me, this is just the beginning. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Don't look so down, Gentle, the next one will be a hit for sure. La Brava encouraged him, as she set their tea on the table. Gentle tried to force a smile, and not acknowledge that she'd said that possibly 100 times by now. I have a feeling you're right, said a somewhat familiar voice from nowhere. The two villains jumped up in alarm, as suddenly a black smoke rose up out of nowhere, and Izuku appeared. Hello Gentle. La Brava. Izuku Midoriya? Gentle balked in surprise, while instinctively getting in front of La Brava. How did you dash? You don't need to worry, I'm not here to turn you in, or anything harmful. You are my benefactors after all. Izuku told them. Speaking of which, I have an offer for you too. Something I think you will be very interested in. And what would that be, exactly? Gentle asked, lowering his guard slightly. You see, I've recently developed something of a cure-all drug, that as the name implies, cures almost any and all illnesses known to man, Izuku explained, shocking the two. And I plan to roll out this drug, worldwide. However, some governments are likely to try and push back against this, to keep me from gaining a massive amount of power and influence in their counties. Especially someplace like China. What I need you to do, is hack into the Midoriya Foundation database, steal data, and then make a fake leak that says that certain governments have already denied me the ability to make and sell this drug in their countries. Wait, wouldn't that cause a worldwide panic? La Brava pointed out. If everyone found out that the cure for cancer was found, but the government wouldn't let them have it, there would be riots at the least, and violent uprisings at most. Indeed it will. Izuku nodded. The governments won't be able to quell that kind of chaos unless they allow their citizens access to my drug as soon as possible. Meaning they'll have basically no bargaining power, or ability to delay this whatsoever. At least not if they don't want to worry about their citizens setting their homes on fire. I see. So that would mean this drug would get into the hands of the people who need it, as quickly as possible. Gentle mused. But, won't the panic this causes inevitably hurt some people? Yes. Izuku sighed. But if we don't do this, the governments are going to delay this for years, in an attempt to keep an iron grip on their power. And how many people do you think will have died preventable deaths if that happens? I have to take action now before they can do anything to slow me down. And think about what you'll get from this. In the end, you'll say that you're the ones who came up with the idea of pressuring the governments. You'll go down in history. As heroes to some, and villains to others. You'll finally have all the recognition you desire. Gentle and La Brava's eyes widened, as they heard the offer. It was everything they'd been working for. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make their seemingly far-off dreams become true. But, won't that make us a target, for nearly every nation in the world? Gentle asked while looking at La Brava. Almost, our own government is already in on this plan and will provide you as much support as they can, Izuku told them. You'll also have the help of my own Midoriya Foundation, and of course, all the people who appreciate your efforts. Although, you will almost certainly be targeted by assassins and heroes alike. So this job is not without risk. But I doubt you'll get another chance like this. So please consider my offer carefully. Can you give us a moment? Gentle asked, as he took La Brava aside. Gentle, what are you doing? This is our chance. La Brava asked in a whisper. You'll finally get what you've always deserved. But at what cost? Gentle asked, looking a bit shaken. La Brava, this is beyond anything I could have imagined. We won't just have to deal with heroes, but actual assassins. Our lives will be radically different. La Brava was confused for a second, before she realized what this was really about, and gave her partner a gentle smile. Gentle, you don't need to worry about me. I swore that I would be by your side, and help you achieve your goals, no matter what. La Brava. Gentle smiled back. Thank you. I promise that no harm will come to you. No matter what. The two turned back to Izuku, who had been waiting patiently. Mr. Midoriya, we will take your deal. Gentle said.